Stats, of course, is the super wordy, so just start underlining. I'm going to, try to, again, so the quick review on this. A controlled experiment. Okay, and I think these are fairly obvious. This is when you divide into two groups. One gets a treatment, one gets the control. The control group serves as a baseline that receives no treatment. They get the placebo. Groups must be randomly assigned to the participants, and then you compare. The other thing that this doesn't say is this is the only thing that can have a cause and effect. Okay. This is the only time you can get a cause and effect is if it's in a controlled experiment. Observational study, kind of like it sounds. You do not do anything. You just observe. You just sit back and observe, just the way it sounds. Okay, you don't affect anything. And then survey, that's usually the simple one. It's when you ask people a question. Okay, you're asking a random group a question. Types of groups, a population would be everyone in the group, and a sample is a group from the population. If 100 students were randomly selected at a selected high school students showed that 90% of them were excited for summer. What is the sample and what is the population? No, the sample would be how many students? No. 100 students. What would the population be? All the high school students. We took 100 from the high school. The population is the high school. The sample would be the 100 students. Okay? And because I took a random sample, I can conclude that 90% of the population is excited for summer. All right, types of samples. A random sample. All the members of the population have an equal likely chance to be chosen. A survey is given to everyone who's selected by a random number generator, as an example. These are unbiased. As long as you are random, it is unbiased. A systematic sample is where you order the population in some way, and then you select it using regular intervals. So for example, a survey is given to every 5th person that enters the mall. Okay, so again, every 5th person is making it systematic. These are also unbiased because they are random. Convenient samples. Okay, where you select any member of the population who are conveniently and readily available. Example, you're giving your survey to only your friends and family. That's a convenient sample. Okay, they are very biased. Okay, they are not random, which makes them biased. A volunteer or self-selected sample means you select only members of the population who volunteer. So example, a survey is left on the table in the mall is to be done by those who volunteer to do it. Or you call into American Idol. That's a volunteer sample. These are extremely biased. Okay. So here's our first example. A coach wants to test the effect of a new sports vitamin drink on mile time. She separates her sample into 2 groups, giving one group the new sports drink and the other water. What do we have right there? Controlled experiment. Okay, we separated into 2 groups. One got a treatment, one got a control. A researcher wants to determine if there's a link between attendance during the school year and summer school attendance. He gathers data from the districts and compares the results. Observation. We didn't do anything. We just sat back and grabbed the data. Which scenario might not lead to biased sampling? Giving all those who answer a survey a free entry into a free entry into a drawing to receive a new phone. Having people call into a company to give feedback about a truck driver's driving. Distributing a survey to every 5th person who enters the mall. Giving a survey about baseball coaching to those who you know are baseball coaches. Hopefully, obviously 3. What's wrong with number 1? It has an incentive, right? They're trying to buy your love, so to speak. They want you to fill this out so that you have this chance, they get you in your head that you're going to win a new phone. What's wrong with 2? It's voluntary. You might call because you're friends with the guy, or you might call because you really dislike this guy's driving, or you may not call at all because you don't drive, right? You don't see this truck at all. 4, Giving a survey about baseball coaching to those who know are baseball coaches. Again, that's very selective. You're only giving it to that group of people. Mary's an interior designer and orders 500 white roses for an upcoming design. After they arrive, she randomly chooses 10 dozen roses from the truck and brings them inside. Who is the sample and who is the population?
Sample is the 500 and the population is 500.
Sample's the 10 dozen. And the population is the 500. That was the total group. That would be my population. The sample is part of the group. State one conclusion that could be made about the population if Mary finds that 2% of the sample was unsatisfactory. So if 2% of the sample is unsatisfactory, since it was random, we can then conclude that 2% of the population will be unsatisfactory. Okay, as long as you have a random sample, you can then conclude something about your population. On Wednesday, during homeroom, the 4 student Senate officers, Kevin, Mary, Sarah, and Larry, are given a stack of surveys about the school construction and told they are responsible for getting their surveys completed by their peers. They split the stack up between the 4 of them, and then Kevin gets a survey completed by every student in his homeroom. Is that random, systematic, voluntary, or convenience? Definitely convenience. He did not go out of his way. He did what was easy for him and just the people in his room. Mary stands outside the school on Thursday and has every 3rd person who entered the school complete her survey. Definitely random and systematic, because it's every 3rd person. Sarah leaves her surveys in the lunchroom with a sign on them that says, "Please take this survey." Voluntary. Again, you don't have to do it. It's just nice of you. And Larry walks to each homeroom and has 2 students from each complete his survey. I think it's random and systematic. Yep, random and systematic. Okay. All right, calculator skills on the mean and the standard deviation. So as a reminder, this is a combo move. It's second vars, norm CDF, and then you put your information in. So let's take a look at, I'll just jump to this question at the bottom. If the amount of time that students spend during extracurricular activities each week is normally distributed, so there's my keyword, I'm probably thinking norm CDF, with a mean of 8 hours, so they give me a mean, standard deviation of 3. What is the probability that the student does between 4 to 9 hours of extracurricular activities each week? So if this is in the short answer, remember you have to have work down. So on paper, you're simply going to put norm CDF. And then you're just going to list out what you're typing in your norm CDF if this is the short answer. Okay, so again, it's second distribution. Look for your norm CDF. We want to be between, so I'm going to kind of draw my picture out. I want to be between, what was my mean? My mean was 8. And I want to be between 4 and 9. So what does that tell me my lower bound is? 4. My upper bound, 9. My mean is 8. And my standard deviation is 3. And what is it asking for? What is the probability? So I want to be clear. When it says probability, I can give a fraction, decimal, or percent. What are they giving me here? A decimal. And it doesn't say to round, so I am just writing out my decimal. Hopefully it does on your exam. But if it doesn't say, we're just going to write it down. Okay. This is not a percent unless you move the decimal place where? Right. This is just a decimal. This is like your fraction. Now it says, given 700 students, how many of them would have completed this between 4 and 9 hours? What do I do now with this answer? Yes, I'm going to take that value, that entire value, and I'm going to multiply by the 700 students. So I'm just on my screen, and I'm just hitting times 700. Now again, hopefully it tells you to round. If it doesn't, How many people do I currently actually have?
378.
Not yet. I have 377 people. So if it says round, I'd round to the nearest person or whatever it says. But I currently only have 377 whole people made. All right, I'll give you a few minutes to tackle question 2. All right, my numbers are super sloppy, but how are these looking? Like I got a .630 here. 252 approximately people. Well, I wouldn't round up. I'd have 252 women.
Is there a way if I convert my probability to the same?
I wouldn't do that unless it asks for a percent. So again, you would probably leave it like this unless it's going to say round. It's either going to say something like, if it says round to the nearest hundredth, Rohan, you want to leave it like this. If it says round to the nearest hundredth of a percent, that's the only time I would move it to a percent, is the wording of it. I'd .6305 and then about 353 women. .49018 something. And 164 women, it looks like. 9.121. 25.249. And a 15 something, .0133. Do we not, Morgan, you're making a funny face. Go ahead.
I got every single one of those. I got 75.
Let's see if I typed those in wrong. On the first one, Morgan?
I got like 74 point.
Mean is 70, standard deviation of 3. On C, 67 and 74. Does .75 sound better? Yeah, I'm not sure what that one was. Sorry about that. .7501. Yep, sorry about that. Keep going. You said you got another one?
Well, no, I just got all of them. Like, all I have to answer every single one. But I think I did something wrong.
So it's that first one, if it says the heights are above 74, so then my min would be 74 and my max would be 9999.
Oh, I see what I did wrong. I put the wrong mean.
Oh, okay, and it also says nearest percentage. So Rohan, here's where I'm moving now. I'm moving it over to get a percent.
I thought you said we could choose any.
I said watch the wording of it though. This one clearly says percent.
So what about the other one? Just probability.
Other ones are probability is just, I'm gonna go with my decimals. I'm really only moving it to a percent if it says the word percent in the problem.
So how do you know it's
So, and again, this is just, it's not an exam question, so it's not specific. If it said nearest tenth of a percent, let's say, then I would move it to a percent, and then I would look for the 10th spot. So I would move this over 2 places, so that would be 9 point, in that case, 1%. Okay, so move it to a percentage, and then look for the rounding that it says. And again, that's only if it says percent. Morgan, you want me to do this one too?
No, it's okay. I just typed in the wrong numbers for some reason.
Gotcha. Okay, tomorrow we're going to hit the confidence interval stuff. So that's from that packet. We're going to call that good. I'm going to pass these tests back.